We've all been there. You have a great conversation with a prospective client. You get excited, they get excited, everything feels like it aligns. And at the end of that conversation, they just ask you to send over a proposal. So you go away and maybe with your team, you work on that proposal. You make sure it looks great. You make sure it sounds great. You make sure that it covers all of the things that you talked about in that conversation, and you hit send. And then for the next few hours, the next few days, you're sitting there waiting for that response. Are they going to accept it? Are they not? You constantly check your inbox to see whether they've replied. And usually three things happen. Either number one, they totally ghost you and you never get a reply from them. Maybe you send some follow-up emails and they don't get back to you. And they just seem to kind of disappear off the face of the earth. Second thing that happens is they get back to you and say, yep, we'd love to go ahead. And then you move forward with the project. Third thing that happens is they reply maybe days or weeks later and say that they've decided to go with somebody else. This is what I used to face all the time in my agency, and it drove me insane. I was constantly there waiting, checking my inbox, trying to figure out why I won that project, why I didn't win that project. And in the end, I made the decision to just stop sending proposals. And the reason I did that is because I was lucky enough to work with an incredible mentor and entrepreneur who taught me how to have really powerful sales conversations. And it meant a few things. Number one, it meant that I didn't have to sit around waiting for an answer. I usually got an answer then and there on that call. The second thing is it meant that prospective clients didn't treat me like a worker. They didn't say, yeah, sure, we'll go ahead. And then as that relationship moved forward, there was like scope creep and, hey, we just need to change this. We just need to do that. Often those would be the relationships that I would enter into. It prevented that from happening. So instead, when I learned how to have powerful sales conversations, what it actually allowed me to do is position myself as the partner, position myself as the expert. And then the third and final thing that it allowed me to do is charge more money and actually communicate the value of what I do in a more effective way. So just imagine what it would be like to never have to sit and wait, looking at your inbox again, wondering if they're going to come back with an email to say whether you won that project. Imagine what it would be like to not have to spend hours and hours making custom proposals for clients and know that you can create the exact same effect in one conversation. So what I'd love to show you today in this video is something that we call the one-page sales system. And this is something that I've developed over the last 5 or 6 years, having thousands of sales conversations, but also teaching my clients, agency owners, creative business owners, small creative studios that have this problem all the time, that spend ages and ages on proposals. So what I'm going to share with you today is a framework that will mean you stop getting ghosted by clients, that you stop having to worry about whether you're going to win that project or not. You can just get a yes or a no on that call. And more importantly, you can position yourself as a partner and actually start charging the kind of money that you really want to be charging. So you can sit there knowing that you've got a process that you take every single client through that means that you never have to send a proposal again. So it's called the one-page sales system for a reason. It all fits on one page. But before I actually dig into the system, there are 3 kind of ideas or key concepts that I want to share with you that we have to really get on board with and really embed if we're going to utilize this system in the most effective way possible. So the first concept is that we want to swap proposals with presentations. And the reason that we want to do this, the reason this is so important is because when somebody looks at a proposal, when somebody looks at a proposal document, we're not actually controlling the environment or the frame that they're looking at that in. So you might send that proposal over and they might not even read the whole thing. A lot of people just scroll straight to the bottom and look at the price and ask themselves, is that the kind of budget that I had in mind? Also, you can't control the environment. They might be sat on the train on the way to their office. They might be at home with the kids being pestered, kind of one eye on the children, one eye on the proposal. So the reason we want to create presentations rather than proposals is because it allows us to control the frame of that conversation. And more importantly, it actually allows us to answer any questions, concerns, objections that they have there and then, rather than trying to deal with these things over email afterwards. The second big idea is that we want to get into the habit of selling outcomes, not outputs. I work with a lot of different creative agencies. Some of them do branding, some animation, some sell videography services. And one of the things that I see is their proposals are often packed with features. You know, you get this amount of videos, these amount of days editing, we do your stationery pack, whatever it is, and it's packed full of these kind of features. And what I've come to learn over the years is that clients don't really care that much about the features. They're nice to have, but what they really care about is the result that they're getting, the outcome that they're going to get as a result of that project. Now, I know in branding and animation and things like that, sometimes it's really difficult to actually say the specific result that we're going to get. And we can never guarantee that that brand is going to give them X in revenue or anything like that. But what we can do is we can talk about the typical outcomes that they're going to get as a result of having this new brand, right? So an example, instead of saying you're going to get header documents, you're going to get branded stationery packs, whatever it is that you throw in, what we want to say is you're going to have the confidence to go out and pitch your business in a way like you've never pitched it before. You're going to feel at ease when you're giving investor presentations because you know you have a holistic brand that really represents the power of your product. They're the outputs. They're the things that a client's going to actually get. They're the outcomes that the client's going to get, not the outputs, which is, hey, here's a slide deck, here's a stationery pack, etc., etc. So the second big idea is you want to sell the outcome. What is the client going to get, not just the output? And then the third and final idea that we need to get on board with if we're going to use this system effectively is that we want to think of objections as opportunities. So when someone says, oh, I don't have that budget, or someone says, we're talking to other agencies, or someone says whatever the thing is that's the barrier to you moving forward with the sale, we really want to see those as opportunities, twofold. Number one, an opportunity to figure out a solution, right? There might be a genuine thing that they're concerned about that there is a solution to. So an opportunity to actually present some new ideas and new solutions to your prospective client. The second thing is an opportunity for us to learn what it is about our offer that's not currently resonating with that prospective client. So it's a really good opportunity to look at, okay, how would I make this way more irresistible to these people? How would I make it feel like a no-brainer? And it's really important, if you dig down into those objections, then you can actually improve your offer. Most prospects will give you what we call surface level objections. These are objections around time and money and team and not right now and all of these kind of things. They're usually just things that people say because they're a little bit too uncomfortable to say what the real thing is on their mind or what the real thing is that's holding us back. If we have the courage to push and find out what it is they're actually concerned about, then we have the opportunity to improve our product, but we also have the opportunity to help them have a shift in thinking or see things that maybe they didn't see before, because usually people's objections to a solution are often the things that are currently keeping them stuck where they are right now. So the third big idea is that we want to look at objections as opportunities. And so if we can get on board with these three ideas, if we can stop sending proposals to people and letting them consume them in their own time and say, get on a call and let us present you this idea. Let's have a conversation about it. Let's structure the way that we present this to you and let's have a dialogue. Let's have a sales conversation about this, not just here's a document. If we can get on board with that idea and do that consistently, stop sending proposals, and we can get really clear and really focused on what are the outcomes that this will create for your business, and look at any objections to those outcomes or to working with you or to moving forward as an opportunity to improve the product or to at least help the prospective client think about things in a different way, then the one-page sales system I'm going to share with you is extremely powerful. And we've got examples and case studies of people who have doubled or tripled their fee in one conversation. They've charged 2 or 3 times what they usually charge for clients in one conversation. And we ran an event for our clients. The one I'm sharing with you here today is an event that we ran back in January where we spent 2 full days on this. And from those 2 full days, clients generated tens of thousands of pounds worth of business just from this framework. But more importantly, than the money is how they enrolled those clients, how they created those relationships with those clients. And that's what this framework is really powerful for. So if you want to stop sending proposals and actually start creating partnerships with your clients and getting a yes on the call, then this framework will help you to do that. So there's 4 parts to the one-page sales system. The first part is the setup, and the setup is really important because it's what we call the frame, right? So this is kind of how we control the rest of the conversation, how we set the conversation up in the first 3 to 5 minutes, just like a good bit of content or a good video. How we set that up is really going to determine how the rest of the conversation goes. So I see a lot of people really kind of failing on this point because they just struggle really to frame the conversation in the right way and ensure that the prospect knows what's going to happen next. So I'll talk you through the whole framework in a minute, but I want to talk to you about the 4 key parts first. So the first part is the setup. Then part 1 in the actual framework itself is what we call the discovery. And so the discovery phase is really about understanding where is that client right now. Okay. So we talk about a concept of the 2 islands, which I'll tell you about in a minute. But essentially what we want to know is where is that client or that prospective client right now? Where do they want to be? And what's standing in the way? So we're kind of discovering what's going on right now for them, where they want to be in the future, and what they feel those obstacles are. The second part of the actual framework is what we call diagnose. Now, I want you to think a little bit like a doctor, right? A doctor who's actually coming in and diagnosing what the problem is, rather than the prospect telling you, hey, here's what we need, and you saying, great, we do that. That's transactional. That's what puts you in worker mode. We actually want to be able to diagnose the client's or the prospective client's problems so that we can provide the right solution for them. And then that is the final part here, which is around proposing the actual solution. And there's a framework and there's a format of how we do that. So every single conversation we have when we're presenting, rather than sending proposals, should follow this 4-part framework. Okay. So the way this framework is laid out is quite simple. So we've got the 4 parts here, and we're going to go from top to bottom and left to right. Okay. So we're going to start here and we're going to go down, and then we're going to follow it through column by column. So let me just kind of talk you through each stage of this process and just explain what each of these stages mean. The reason I love this is because A, it's so simple, but B, it's really like a fail-proof system. And once you get good at following it, it becomes second nature to you. The reason I've created this framework like this is so that you can actually have it in front of you. Like we gave our clients big A2 boards. You put it up behind your camera, so I could be looking at it up here. And it just reminds me, what part of the conversation am I in right now? So we're always going to start with the setup. So the setup is the thing that comes first. And the setup is really important, like I said, because it frames the rest of the conversation, right? So rapport, most people are pretty good at doing this naturally. Most people are quite good at building rapport. What you'll see I've done here is I've put kind of 2 little words at the bottom of every section here. And these are just to help remind us what this section is about. So down here, I've put same and match and mirror. So same is really about finding something in common with the person that you're speaking to. And matching and mirroring is just a kind of technique that actually originates from NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. And it's about how we tend to match and mirror people's language and their body behavior when we have rapport with them. Don't worry too much about that. We won't go into detail now. But the first thing we want to do is just build rapport. So, hey, great to see you today. Where are you calling from? Oh, I've never been there. It's on my bucket list. Do you have any kids? Just kind of building that rapport. Now, this shouldn't really last anywhere more than 2 to 5 minutes, because otherwise what you get into is what we call chit chat. And we don't want to have chit chat. We want to have a sales conversation. And that's where the second section of the setup comes in. This is what we call the pre-frame. And this is really important because this is actually what will determine who has control of the conversation. So one of the things I learned early on in sales is whoever controls the frame tends to control the conversation. And what we're going to do in the frame is we're really going to make it just clear what our intention of the call is and how the structure of the call is going to go. This is important for a few reasons, because if people jump on a sales call with you and you don't tell them what the intention of the call is, they're going to make up their own intention, right? Oh, this person's probably going to sell something to me. Oh, this person just wants to take my money, etc., etc. So it's really important that we control the frame. And one of the things that I always say on a sales conversation is, the intention of this call really is to get you some clarity. And clarity means by the end of this call, you can make a decision and we can make a decision together whether this thing is a problem that we can solve, and B, a solution that you feel happy with. So by the end of today, it should either be a yes, this is a perfect fit, or no, this isn't what we're looking for right now, and this isn't a good fit, right? So it's a fit call, it's a clarity call, rather than a sales call where I'm going to try and force you to buy something. And I'll say that at the beginning of the conversation, A, because it genuinely is that. Like, I often have sales conversations with people where I say, nope, we can't help you, or this isn't a good fit, or I don't think this is going to work for whatever particular reason. And secondly, because I want to be transparent with them, that I'm not going to force them into doing anything. But what I would like them to do is make a decision. That's all I'm asking. So if it feels like a no, that's absolutely fine. But if it's a yes, then great. Let's talk about what those next steps look like. So that's what I mean by intention. And structure is we're just going to tell them what the structure of this call looks like. So we're going to talk them through this framework. And that's really important because now they know what's going to happen. This little authority piece I like because it does a few things. Number one, it allows you to know what they saw or what they heard that made them thought that it was worth jumping on a call with you. And number two, it just reinforces why they're on that call. So I'll just simply ask people, I'm curious, like, what was it about the video you saw, or what was it about us that made you want to jump on this call? And that's just a good way to find out, well, I saw this and I thought you could help with X or whatever, right? So it's just a kind of why me? And also sometimes I ask why now? Like, why is now the right time to be having this conversation? So that's the setup phase. And it's really, really important. If you skip it, you're going to get into this and lots of things are going to happen. Number one, that person might feel really uncomfortable about you asking these kind of questions because you haven't set the call up properly. Number two, they might interview you rather than you asking them the questions. There's lots and lots of things. They can ramble for ages and go off track. If you don't have the setup, or if you don't set the conversation up correctly, then lots and lots of things can go wrong. So that's the kind of initial setup. Then we actually get into the discover phase, this part here, right? The discover phase, like I said, is all about the two islands. So where are you now and where are you trying to get to? What does future look like for you in the context of whatever you're offering, right? So if someone's coming to you like, hey, we want to make this thing, we want to make this film. Okay, what does future look like? What does it look like in an ideal world? If this was just done, I click my fingers, what would that look like? Oh, well, loads of people would be telling us how amazing it is. We'd be seeing this, we'd be seeing that. And that's a really great way to measure the kind of deliverability of what you're doing, i.e., how are we going to know if we did a great job, right? How are we going to know if the thing that you're thinking of doing is actually going to get you the outcome? Like, what is it that you actually want? And then how does that compare to where you are now? And so it's about painting that gap, getting an idea of what the gap looks like. Then we're going to talk about obstacles. Okay, what's standing in the way? Have you tried anything before? Like, why don't you have this thing already? What have you done in the past? What do you feel is preventing you from having this amazing thing already? And then we're going to talk about impact. And this is really, really important. Loads of people miss this, right? It's the opportunity cost. People often say, oh, I don't know if we can afford this right now. But how many people actually sit down and think about, well, what's the alternative? What's the cost of me not taking action on this? And this is something that I learned a long time ago, but I heard Alex Hormozy talk about recently. And he says he heard this great presentation where this guy was giving a talk about earning money or building your business and building revenue. And he said to this woman, like, how much do you want to earn, or how much money do you want your business to earn? And she was like, oh, I want to earn $1 million. He said, okay, great. Like, where are you now? And she said, oh, now I'm about $250,000. And he was like, great. So what do you realize that every year you're paying $750,000 to not know how to make $1 million? So what's the opportunity cost? If you really want to make $1 million and that's really where you are, then what does it look like to every year keep doing these things and only be at 250,000? What might happen if nothing changes? Like all of these questions I'm just kind of throwing out, but that's the idea of an opportunity cost. And you might say, well, Matt, I sell branding. So how do I quantify that? Well, what is the cost? What is it currently costing you to not have the brand that you want? What is it currently costing you in customer perception? What are some of the impacts of not having the kind of brand that you want to have? And it's important to go there. People sometimes aren't brave enough or courageous enough to ask those questions because it feels uncomfortable. But I've got a great saying that I heard from many people in many different variations, which is essentially that the outcome that you want or the goal that you want probably lives on the other side of 2 or 3 uncomfortable conversations. The more we can get comfortable with having uncomfortable conversations, the more money we'll be able to charge, the more we'll be able to be in that kind of leadership partner position, and the less we'll have to worry about where the next project is going to come from. People will pay a lot of money to have uncomfortable conversations and be challenged because most people aren't willing to do it. So we must spend time on the impact, right? We must really think, what is this costing me here? Probably that should be in red so that you remember, right? What is the impact of this? What is the opportunity if we get this right? But more importantly, what is the cost of getting this wrong or not doing something about this? And so then all we're going to do in the diagnose stage is that we're just going to confirm. So we're going to repeat back to them what we've just heard. So what I hear is like, you're here now and here's where you want to be. You feel like these are the main obstacles that are standing in the way. And here's the impact of those obstacles. And here's the impact of things not being how you want them to be. And here's the opportunity if they are. Is that correct? Right? And they'll say yes, or they'll add some things to it. They'll say, yeah, but this, and maybe we missed this, and maybe we forgot that. So you want to do this. This is a crucial piece because if you don't confirm and you don't repeat back to them what they heard, then sometimes they might feel like you haven't actually got it. You haven't actually got what they just said to you, right? And then you're just simply going to ask them, okay, great. Would you like me to talk about how we can help with that? If you can help, right? If they tell you a bunch of stuff that you can't help with, then you just have to say, I'm really sorry, based on what you've told me, I don't think I can help you. I don't think I'm the right person, but hopefully I can recommend you to somebody who is. But if you can help them, then great. Would you like some help with that? And it's really important to ask that question, because if you don't ask that question, you just start pitching, then sometimes it feels a little bit uncomfortable. Sometimes it feels like you haven't got permission, right? So you're actually going to say, would you like some help? And they'll go, yeah, great. I'd love to hear how you could do that. And now we're going to prescribe, right? Now we're getting into the prescribe stage. And so you would say, okay, well, I've heard these 3 challenges here. And so the first thing I think that we need to do is this. And by the way, right now, you're not actually talking about your offer. You're not talking about your core service. You're staying quite high level and strategic here. So in a brand sense, the first thing that I think we would need to do is we need to do some audience research to make sure that we really understand what this brand is going to stand for. Then I think we would need to do this, and then I think we would need to do this, right? And that would be my recommendation. And so then I would ask, this is what we call the soft close. Then I would ask, if we did those things, would you be confident that you were going to get this result? If we did these things that I've just said, or you could phrase it differently, if we did these things, how confident would you be that we would get this result that you've outlined here, right? And if they only say not that confident, I always love using markers. So like on a scale of 1 to 10, right? Where would you be? How confident would you be? 10 is like super confident, 1 is not confident. If they say like a 4, then you could say, okay, well, what do you think needs to be added in here? What do you think is missing to really ensure that we get this outcome from your perspective, right? And so we open up that conversation. So we want, first of all, to know that what we've proposed as an overall concept, they are happy with. Because if they're not happy with the concept, if they're not happy with the strategy of the how to get there, the vehicle, then they're never going to move forward with the actual sale. So that's the first thing. Then we're actually going to get them to commit, right? We're going to say, okay, apart from price, is there anything else that would stop you moving forward with this solution? We're going to keep price to later. Apart from like how much does it cost and what are the specifics around it? Is there anything else that would actually stop you moving forward with this? So we want a soft close. So we want to make sure that they're actually going to move forward before we start talking about the deliverables and the specifics. And that might sound counterintuitive, but it's really important. I don't have enough time because I want to try and keep this under 30 minutes. I have enough time to go into exactly why there is a psychological phenomenon behind it. And then we want to talk about the deliverables and the price. So here's what you actually get, right? And this is how much it's going to cost. Then what we're going to do, rather than sending a proposal, great, just put that in a proposal. We're not going to do that, right? We're going to do what I call the traffic light system, which I think I learned from Daniel Priestley. The traffic light system is really cool because you're just going to give them 3 options. You're going to say, okay, cool. Most people are in one of 3 places right now. They are either red, this doesn't feel like the right fit for me, and I don't want to move forwards. They are, let's get another color. They're yellow or amber. They feel like this is a good fit, but they've got some concerns or questions. Or they're green and they're ready to move forward. Where are you right now? And the reason I love this is because it's so simple. It just makes them pick a color. And so most people will tell you something like amber or green, or they might say, I'm kind of between amber and green right now. And then the question becomes really simple. Okay, what would need to happen, or what would you need to know in order to get to green? And they will tell you the other objections that they have. And I would just keep going through this process. And then I would answer those objections. Oh, well, I just need to speak to my business partner, etc. Okay, cool. Objection number 1, I need to speak to my business partner. So theoretically, if your business partner was all for this, you would be totally green. Well, yeah, I mean, we kind of need to go and look at our budgets. Okay, cool. So price is another, and you just keep going until they're 100% green, right? Or move them to red. So we either want them to be, at the end of this call, we either want them to be green or red. We don't want to have anyone in the middle. We're moving them up to green or we're moving them down to red. We don't want any ambers. Then what we're going to do, this is the part that most people miss, is if they are a green, we're going to talk about the next steps. This is how it works. First we do this, then we do this, right? This is how we get you set up and ready to go. And we're actually going to outline the terms of service. And we're going to get an agreement. And this usually would be in the form of a deposit, right? And so this is what we need to do to get started. And this is the bit that most people miss, right? We would need this signed by this date. We need a deposit in the bank account by this date to get started. If we don't have that, we can't start the project and we will have to offer it to somebody else. And that's the part that most people miss, right? They just leave it in the open. They give the prospective client the idea that, well, they can make a decision anytime and just get back to us and let us know. And it just kind of stays out there in the ether. And all that's doing is it's taking your time and attention and focus away from other people you could be helping. Because there are always people, there are hundreds of clients out there that you could be helping right now. There's only one of you in your business, right? So there's a phrase that I always tell our clients: no saves time, yes creates clients, maybes waste time. No saves time, yes creates clients, but maybes waste time. All right, so we don't want maybes, we don't want ambers. We want to get rid of that. And if they don't want to give you a definite answer on that call, that's absolutely fine. But one thing that you must do is you must then arrange the next call to have the conversation and move that conversation forwards. Never just send a proposal and let them say, we'll get back to you, because it's just wasting everybody's time. So that's how we stopped sending proposals. That's how our clients now charge 2 or 3 times what they used to charge. And that's how most people that we work with don't have to worry about sending big, lengthy proposals anymore, and they just get answers there and then from that prospective client. If you'd like a copy of this, if you'd like a copy of the one-page sales framework, I'll put a link in the description of this video below. And you can download it and you can print this out and you can run through it on your next sales conversation. If you'd like some help or some guidance implementing this and you have questions, then drop a comment below and I will do my best to answer them. I hope you found this valuable. My name is Matt Essam. And if you did, please hit that subscribe button and follow for more of these videos. I'll speak to you soon.